Good afternoon, everyone. Kindly indicate if you can hear me. Good afternoon, Ms. Damilola, Ibrahim Zubey, Mercy Frederick, Izine Boehe, and Amina Adam. Can you hear me, please?
Good afternoon, I can hear you.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, yes, I can hear you.
Good afternoon, everyone, once more. My name is Hussein Mahadi. I'll be stepping in for our moderator for today, Goslov Kamalu, is having technical issues joining the call. So whenever he joins, I'll just hand over to him. So today is week 3, JIIPCC Mentorship and Internship program for FinTech. And our topic for today is FinTech transaction and contracts. We have 3 mentors, Mr. Lucien Savi, yes, and Mr. George and Mrs. Tamilola Ina. So these are our 3 mentors for today. Before we jump into the program for today, I'll make some few announcements. Kindly hold on as I share my screen. So the JIIPCC Mentorship and Internship program for FinTech is a quarterly mentorship program for students and young professionals across Africa. Mentees are afforded the opportunity to access valuable advice, training, network, mentorship, internship, discussion forum, industry updates, and resource materials from experienced mentors. The program seeks to encourage continuous training, development, and improvement in Nigeria, Africa, and Africa. You can watch some of our videos on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and other social media platforms by searching hashtag JIIPCC MIP. Some of the objectives of the program is to provide access to guidance, training, and resource materials for students and professionals in Africa, to facilitate dialogue and network among experienced and less experienced practitioners and stakeholders, to transform mentees into mentors and leaders for the next generation, and finally to facilitate further mentorship, internship, scholarship, and job placement for the mentees. I'll be taking our mentors profile afterwards. Mr. Lucien Xavier has 22 years of post qualification experience. After serving articles, Lucien spent 2 years in London, where he was seconded to telecom and IT law firm Bain and Baird and telecom multinational cable and wireless. Lucien deals with contentious and non-contentious aspects of commercial law, focus on the regulatory aspect of telecommunication, media, technology, and fintech. Lucien advises legal and international clients on telecom licensing, data privacy, media law, and IP law. His educational backgrounds are University of KwaZulu Natal, BCom LLB, University of Strathclyde LLB IT and Telecom, Oxford University SAID School of Business FinTech Program, World Intellectual Property Acquisition, Advanced Certificate in Intellectual Property. Our second mentor for today is Damilola Akinade, who holds a BSc degree in Natural Biology from Osun State University. Over the last 8 years, she has general experience in customer experience management, products development, project management, and digital partnership in the banking industry. She currently works with Providus Bank as a FinTech partnership manager, where she enables partnership with FinTechs, microfinance banks, and SMEs for digital financial services and products. She's also an entrepreneur with 2 startups, an event management company, Zapris Events, and a spice production company, Spice by Asabi. Thank you very much for joining us today, Akinade. Our third mentor for today, our profound mentor, Mr. George Onyewuchi, heads FinTech engagements for First Bank at its subsidiary across Africa at its Digital Innovation Lab, setting up and driving the bank's FinTech strategy. Mr. George is a link that connects technology, business, and ecosystem partnership. He is at the intersection of product partnership and ecosystem building. He has led the tech solution product development for the SME banking business of the leading commercial bank and has taken numerous financial and non-financial products from ideas to market and growth. He has led digital transformation in the client engagements process for leading commercial banks, including one of the Nigerian banking industry's best end-to-end account opening for corporate accounts and SME digital lending. His team has won numerous awards for powering growth of SMEs. He also provides advice for PRIP Africa towards developing blockchain infrastructure and building the operating system for African businesses on blockchain, and host knowledge session on blockchain applications to various industries within the African context. Thank you very much for also joining us today, Mr. George Onyewuchi. Our mentees are encouraged to take advantage of the 30-minute one-on-one session with your favorite mentor. That's an opportunity provided by JIIPCC to all its mentees. And finally, you can share the JIIPCC flyer for next quarter with your friends and colleagues that are interested in either courses to be taking entertainment, business law, data protection and privacy, FinTech industry, blockchain, API, metaverse, and the intellectual property industry. That's a quick announcement for today. I don't know if our moderator for today is on the call yet. God's love, Kamal. He isn't, so we'll just keep going on. We'll be calling on, I can see our mentor, Miss Damilola, is on the call. We're still awaiting Mr. George and Mr. Lucien. So I'll call on Miss Damilola to start the talk for today. You're giving us an the floor is yours, ma'am.
Okay, good afternoon. I think I lost you at some point, but I think if I hear you well, I can go ahead now.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, all right then. I'll just proceed. So the topic for today is financial FinTech transactions and contracts, right? So I think it'd also be good to just zoom out a little and see how we got to where we are dealing with this topic. So there's a topic you'll find going around in the media today. Tech media literally, where you see people talk about Web 3.0. So Web 3.0 is, the digital currencies that you have today, and, all of the, blockchain transaction, cryptocurrency, all of these things, the smart contracts and all of that. So, I mean, it's some sort of like an evolution of what we had before then, and, compared to what is existing now. So most importantly, every vendor, every client, or every user of new age technology for financial services, one of the very critical things that they want is that they want their transactions to be seamless. They want their data to be secured, and of course, they want some level of privacy. I mean, especially for the cryptocurrency transactions, which is why the smart contract comes in handy. So there was a question, I think maybe I'll leave it to when we'll be answering questions. There was a question that talked about, what would the lawyers be doing now, especially with the age of, smart contracts and all that. What, I mean, are they going to lose their job? Something of so. I mean, but the truth is, you cannot completely do away with legal practitioners, because as a service provider providing, cryptocurrency or, any kind of digital currency service to your users, you still require some form of contract sign off with maybe a financial partner, a processing partner, with a regulator. So you always have need for a legal practitioner. And of course, you also need to have legal advisors, because you need to be at par with regulation. You need to be on top of your game so that you don't go out of business. So you cannot completely take out legal practitioners out of your job. So the major thing about financial contracts is that you find out that, I mean, the nature of agreements today, they're always very bulky, 13 to 30 pages, depending on the nature of the transaction. You find them really bulky, and there's always opportunity or, an avenue to just overlook a particular clause or a particular condition, which is even more critical to you as a business owner. And, because the contracts are voluminous, you don't have time to go through them line by lines. You just sign off on things. You don't know entirely what you're getting yourself into. And you find out a year or two down the line that you've made a very terrible business mistake. So you find that the reason why a lot of people are going for smart contracts is because, it's transparent, it's easy to it's easy to execute, it's anonymous as well. It's just between two people. It's anonymous as well. You can decide to bear a fictitious name. You don't have to use your real name, and all of that. However, bearing in mind that, in this part of the world, we still have people who would rather, who they are doing business with. They want to identify with you. They want to know where you come from. What part of, the game you're playing. So everyone literally wants to know, who they're dealing with. But I mean, this also not to shy away from our Gen Zs, who are, more of the uptakers for this kind of transactions. You find more of the baby boomers who are, very risk averse. They don't even want to go into such kind of transactions. So, I mean, we see that in the coming years, there will be high affinity for artificial intelligence, where people would rather not get their hands into doing something. They rather have technology do it for them. They rather have maybe a system put that in place for them, and they just go about their daily work. So there's going to be an evolution where all of this will change, and of course a lot of people will transition from the traditional way of doing things to the digital age of doing things, and you just at some point, just align along the way. So I think that's all for me, so I don't take your time.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Damilola. I think we are still awaiting other mentors. And also, the real moderator for today is on the call. So, Goslow, I'll give him the opportunity to introduce himself. Ms. Damilola, I think you can still continue giving us, shedding more lights on the topic for today while we are still awaiting other mentors. So God's love, over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Hussein. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. It's a great pleasure to be here with us in the FinTech group. FinTech course is really a great pleasure. I see all of our mentors already. Damilola, amazing. I got in and I heard you speak. I don't know, it's like Gypsy, all the mentors always have amazing voices. So amazing to be here, and I really hope that we have a great time today as we learn some more. Thank you very much.
Okay, I think we can take the mentee's presentation now. Then we'll come back to comments and contribution from Ms. Damilola. The presenter for today, please start your presentation.
Hello, isn't it, please? As the slide is showing your screen, please, you could actually start so that we do not have a lapse of time, please. Thank you.
Good day.
Hello, good day. Welcome.
Okay. Good day. My name is Iwu Ezumi, and I'm going to be talking on the FinTech transactions and FinTech contracts. So FinTech transactions simply means the use of technology to facilitate, to automate, and to improve financial transactions. Prior to the 21st century, FinTech transactions, FinTech was used as a term that was limited to the technology that was employed in traditional banking and financial institutions. I mean, it was limited to the back-end systems of these financial institutions. But then over time, FinTech has moved from what it was to what it is today. Now, it has embraced a consumer, it is now consumer oriented. Now you can see people performing different transactions from the comfort of their homes with their computers and with their mobile phones. The technologies that are usually employed for these FinTech transactions include artificial intelligence and blockchain technology. The major characteristic of this FinTechs is to challenge and eventually take over financial services from these traditional banks and financial institutions, and then providing a faster and even better service. No wonder it was estimated that by 2024 that the worth of...
Sorry, isn't it? Sorry to cut you. I don't know, is something wrong with your screen? Because I don't know if it's just me, but we cannot see anything from your screen, okay. Please.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Please, can you see it now?
Not yet. It's still saying that you stay showing your screen, but nothing is showing yet. You could probably stop sharing and try sharing again.
Okay.
Okay, that's popped up now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. No wonder it has been said that by 2024, the net worth of FinTech revenue will be about 188 billion euros. The types of FinTech transactions include crowdfunding, e-payments, stock trading, P2P lending, and fund transfers. With the rise of these fintech companies, it has become imperative. With the rise of these fintech transactions, it has become imperative for fintech companies to take up transaction monitoring as a key issue. Transaction monitoring simply means the tracking of customers' transactions, which includes their deposits, transfers, withdrawals, basically everything that the customer does with his account. And this will help in curbing fraud, money laundering, terrorism financing, and other financial crimes. Then to the regulation to fintech transaction regulations. It is to be noted that there is no general regulator for fintech transactions in Nigeria, but then there are certain bodies that regulate fintech transactions in Nigeria, and they include the Central Bank of Nigeria, the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, the Securities and Exchange Commission, the Nigerian Data Protection Bureau. And these bodies develop certain laws and regulations which help in guiding these fintech companies, which help in guiding the activities of these fintech companies. And a breach of these laws and regulations will lead to certain consequences and sanctions, which include legal actions against the fintech companies, restrictions from the regulator, as well as reputational damage and loss of customer confidence. There is no doubt that the use of fintech transactions has been more efficient, it has been more affordable, it has provided seamless transactions and greater confidence. But then there are certain risks that are posed by these fintech transactions, and they include money laundering, breach in privacy and data protection rights of the users, cyber attack. There have been reports of various data breaches from different fintech companies, which have actually breached the privacy and data protection rights of its users, as well as hacks of certain cryptocurrency exchange platforms, which has actually made these fintech companies much more vulnerable. And then to the fintech contracts, given the diversity between these two institutions, that's the financial institutions and the fintech companies, there is no doubt that the agreements between the financial institutions and the fintech companies will be slightly much more complex than that which is obtainable in ordinary commercial agreements. And while entering into this contract, these fintech companies must pay close attention to certain agreements, and it includes the privacy policies and the confidentiality agreements. So the privacy policies simply means it's more like a document showing how the user's data is going to be processed, how the company collects the data, how it processes it, how it stores it, how it discards it, basically everything that the company does with the data subject's data. And then the confidentiality agreement. So the confidentiality agreement is used to protect information that is exchanged between two parties in the fintech space. And what is confidential for a particular fintech company might not be included in a confidential agreement for another fintech company. And it is advisable for these fintech companies to review and amend these contracts so that to ensure that it is sufficiently tailored to the fintech company's business model and operations. Certain examples of fintech contracts that are entered between parties. The fintech contracts that are entered between parties have certain clauses and contents. And taking the P2P lending agreements, for example, when the operator and lender are involved in an agreement, in a P2P lending agreement, it includes certain clauses like the agreement number and dates, the identities of the parties, the rights and obligations of the parties, the amount of loan, the interest rates, the commission rates, the dispute settlement, period of agreement, other relevant fees, provision on fines, and details on collateral. And then when is a financing agreement, that is when, for example, when they are entering into a financial lease, the clauses that should be included in the financing agreements include the types of business and financial scheme, the number and dates of agreement, the identities of the parties, the identity of the third parties in operation, the details of the finance goods or services, the purpose of the finance and the amount of finance goods and services, and other relevant financing fees and the dispute resolution. In conclusion, we have seen that fintech transactions have actually made transactions much more affordable, seamless, and it has created greater convenience for the consumers, as it has gone from what it was used in the traditional banking system and has embraced consumer-oriented services. And then while entering into financial contract, it is imperative for the parties to have certain clauses, they must have the privacy policy, the terms and conditions, as well as the confidentiality agreements while entering into a contract. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Izin. Thank you for a beautiful presentation. I like how eloquent and at a steady pace you were throughout your presentation. That was really, really beautiful. Thank you so much. At this point, please, I would love to require that every mentee who has a question, if you have a live question, please get them ready, because at JIIPCC, we actually like it where you have a question, ask it on the group. It gives the mentors at least some time to interact with you as well during this session. So, but if you're too shy to do that, you can drop your live questions on the chat box. But I know in the FinTech class, I doubt there's any shy person here. Okay, at this point, I would love to go back to our mentor. You've listened to the wonderful presentation by Izini. We want to get your feedback on the presentation as well as any aspect of the presentation you wish to throw more light on and, should I say, give more wisdom to. Thank you. Over to you, please. Our great mentor in the house today. Mr. Damilola, please.
Hi, okay, was a question asked? I didn't get what you're saying. I thought you were speaking that the mentees should drop their questions.
Oh, yes, the mentees will drop their questions, but they're done with the presentations, and we would love you to give your feedback on the presentations, on the slides, and as well as anything you think you want to throw more light on from the presentation and other aspects of FinTech and contracts that regulate FinTech, please.
Oh, okay, that's fine. I think the presenter, she did justice to it. I mean, knowing that she's not deeply rooted in that line of service yet. I mean, she's still a baby, so to speak, in the system. So I mean, I think she did very well. But I think I particularly like the fact that she captured some of the basic things that you find in contracts, which is the identities of the parties, the obligations, how disputes will be settled in the event of disputes, and details and the likes. But there's something that I think I would also like to mention, which is the fact that before now, I mean, in the early days of my banking career, I remember how when a customer has requested for a loan from the bank and they need to sign off on the offer letter, and you find out that many times customers don't even have the opportunity to completely read the offer letters. I mean, line by line, to know what they are signing up for and what their obligations will be. Of course, I mean, you typically ask, okay, what's my monthly repayment, or maybe what are my quarterly repayments, and you know that figure in your head. But sometimes it's also very important to know, in the event of default, what are you liable for? What's the exposure what are you going to be parting with, when the push comes to shove? So I think bringing that back now to perspective, many law firms today, and you find many lawyers today, they try as much as possible to clean out agreements, which I've seen happen anyway. They clean out agreements, ensuring that they are not too wordy, it's not too voluminous, it's not unnecessarily a 15 to 20 page agreement, when it can simply be a 10-page agreement, which will, have maybe the preliminaries in the first few pages where you can just flip that over, and of course, just go straight to the point and tell us exactly what the agreement seeks to achieve, who the responsible parties are, and in terms of any liabilities, who bears it, force majeure and all of that. Because when we say financial contract and all, bear in mind that at the center of everything, money is involved. Someone's money is involved. Maybe not your money directly, but someone's money is involved. You find that there, if I'm sure if you check the internet today, you find some fintechs who have gone into legal contracts that they did not completely know what they were getting into, and you find out that they were charged to court. There's there's a back-to-back, law battle with them, and find people suing each other and all of that. A case in point is the recent Flutterwave law battle with the Kenyan government, which I'm so glad they got closure, and they were completely exonerated. But when you find yourself in situations like that where you completely do not know what you're getting into until when something goes bad. I think I've also said this a few times in the other fintech classes, where I say that when something is going bad, when something is good, everything is, it looks like it's going well. But the moment something bad happens, everybody begins to then throw up their faces. You begin to now read it into the lines, something that you didn't do before then, So most importantly, it's very good for a startup or, a fintech who has an ongoing business, and maybe someone who is just an SME and wants to bring financial technology into their line of business. Ensure that your contracts are completely understood. Don't go into legal obligations that you don't completely have a full understanding of. Bearing in mind that, one, you're dealing with money, and of course, you want transparency, which is where the smart contracts come to play. You find that today in the Nigerian government, they haven't really accepted the cryptocurrencies, because there's just still a lot of controversy around it. How are the monies converted? How do you have access to it? How do you spend it? It's not a legal tender. So that's why they're saying, no, just don't deal with these people for now. And which is why they have told banks not to deal with cryptocurrency merchants. But you find out that, there are a lot of, cryptocurrency merchants in Nigeria. You check YouTube, you find people talking about, Bitcoins and all that. And you're wondering, for me, I still don't know how it works. I don't know how it works. It just doesn't. I'm always having this battle in my head. How are they? How are they able to convert those currencies into actually, real value of money that is accepted in Nigeria today? But I think I'll just leave that for the gurus in that line. So that's why you see that the smart contracts are coming to play, because they are able to. They're able to execute this contract without any force. They know exactly what their expectations are. And the smart contract, the good thing about it is it's very transparent. You're seeing it, I'm also seeing it as well. Is hosted on cloud system, so you can always make reference to it in the event that you need to, you need to check something. And of course, it's anonymous. Everybody can come on to such platforms and register with fictitious. I'm not necessarily fictitious names. So my name is Damlona, and I can just go there and just say DA. And you just see me as DA all through the time of my interaction with a particular platform. So a lot of people would rather go there because you don't know completely who you're dealing with. You don't even know if this person is a PEP in Nigeria. I mean, PEP is politically exposed person. You don't know if this person is an HNI. You don't even know the real identity of the person. So which is why a lot of the blockchainers, the Gen Zs as we call them, you find them really tilted towards that kind of service. So I think that's it for me. Like I said, most importantly, coming back to home is ensure that all contracts are completely understood. You don't rush into getting into business contracts, especially knowing fully well that money is involved. When things go bad and lawyers begin to tell you what you are required to do to get out of something, you marvel at how did I get into this? How did I omit this while I was signing this off? Yeah, I think that's it for me.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. So much wisdom here. Okay, we have Mr. George also on the call this morning, or this afternoon rather. Mr. George, we believe you heard the presentation by the mentee, or probably you've seen the slide beforehand. Please, we want to get your wisdom on the slide as well as on the presentation, as well as your own contribution to the topic at large. Please, Mr. George, over to you. Please, ladies and gentlemen, let's also do well to welcome Mr. George on the call, please. Thank you. Hello, Mr. George, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm fine. I don't know if you can hear me. My network has been very funny where I am. Can you hear me?
Sorry, we can hear you now. Yes, so loud and clear.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I'm a physical event. All right. What was the question again? I didn't get it earlier.
Okay. I said I believe you listened to the presentation by the mentee before Mrs. Damilola took over. I don't know if you were on by then.
Yeah, I was. I was on and off because of the network, though. But I think I just.
Okay. Okay, sir. Nonetheless, we'd love to also get your own contribution to the topic we're looking at today on fintech and legal contracts. Want to get your own overview on this topic before we go into the questions for today.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, but fintech transactions and contracts. From the topic, there seems to be the two sides you guys are looking at, and I wanted to be sure because I saw in one side contracts in the traditional form of it, like the legal form of it, of contracts, and then in some sort, and I started seeing smart contracts, which looks like it's the same, but it means a bit of a different thing in a way. So I don't know, probably I just brushed through both because I noticed that in one side I saw something on contracts, in fintech contracts, and then, of course in the other side I saw something around it talked about smart contracts. But just to say that contracts beyond fintech, it's everything that we do in business, especially when you have to get engaged with another party. Definitely you can't do without engaging in some form of contractual agreement or an agreement, which once you put it in hard copy, it becomes a contract. Now, it can also carry different names, right? Sometimes it can come in form of, we'll call it an SLA, a service level agreement. It can come in form of, a follow-up to probably like an MOU, that is binding on the partners, or an MOA in most cases, what we call the memorandum of agreement. So a lot of times you might not see the document called. A lot of times you might not see the document called labeled as contract, but it's just basically whatever it is that binds you, to an agreement with another party. And in most cases, fintech, especially the one we call the SLA, the service level agreement, is very common in that whole fintech industry. And that's because And that's because for fintech, service delivery is very critical. And anything that you're doing with another person or anything that you're doing with an organization, you have to reach a certain type of an agreement on how you're going to provide service to that person or to your customer or to that organization, or how that organization is going to provide service to you or maybe partner with you. What are the terms? What are the things that, how things are supposed to be handled? What are the possible things that can go wrong? And what are the things that, how would we escalate those things? So the service level agreement is one of the most popular ones that you will come across in the fintech industry. Now, but if you extend that contract and now add the word smart to it, literally in English, it looks as if you're talking about that your contract will be smart, right? But that is not what smart contract is. When you now use the word smart contract, now you've crossed over the realms of blockchain, where you use the smart contract is actually programmed. But basically, what those programs do are, instead of having me and you look at the document, say this is our service level agreement on how this and this is going to be done. So when that happens, both of us now go and look for that agreement to reference that agreement to do that thing. If we agree that in this contract, in this service level agreement, if I process a transaction for you, because you're using my infrastructure, we charge the customer 10 naira. So when we charge the customer 10 naira, when you collect that 10 naira, give me 5 naira. I'm going to get 50% of that money. So that money comes to you, right? And I'm expecting you're going to uphold that agreement, right? And then if you don't uphold that agreement, we're going to leverage the hard copy paper where we sign it to say, hey, guy, I'm expecting my 5 naira from you. I've not gotten my 5 naira, which is 50% of that money that we have collected from the customer, right? But in the smart contract on the blockchain, that contract that we have signed is done in a program that executes itself. So what that means is that I don't need to come and tell you that, hey, give me my 5 naira, right? Once we execute that smart contract, anytime that money comes, I am going to get my 5 naira, whether or not you like it. If you wake up tomorrow morning and remember that you were not supposed to give me 5 naira, in fact, that I'm taking too much money, you want to hold back some of it and say, hey, come, let's renegotiate this contract. You cannot pause it, right, until we execute another smart contract that can override the existing smart contract. That one cannot be touched. It cannot be, changed. You know how you go and take a document and then you change some part of that document and you call it addendum or whatever you want to call it. It's nothing like addendum in a smart contract. You have to override the entire contract from scratch and execute a totally new smart contract. So it's an executable program embedded on the blockchain where nobody can alter it, where no party has the ability to alter it, and it doesn't need any party to run. Once you execute it, it will automatically execute itself for whatever it is that has been built, whatever commands that have been built into it. Why, if we look at it on the legal term, it is just the black and white paper that expects that we humans will behave ourselves and, of course, honor the terms of what we have signed. But because we don't trust ourselves, or because we don't want to leave it to human, human ability or human hands to meet those terms, if you execute it on the blockchain, you go to sleep. And nobody can alter it until you completely, override, shut down, that smart contract. It's going to run exactly, as it has used to run. And that's where that word smart, takes it to mean a totally different thing. But the presentation itself, why I probably didn't catch a lot of it because of my network, and then I was just getting off the panel. This was, but I would say that I would probably do like a quick dive about it, and of course, as we progress, I'll probably make a few comments on the presentation. I'll be getting out of the the steering soon. So I mean, that would give me enough, leeway to really participate fully here. But I just thought to just share the comment on that, on the topic generally around contracts, with fintech, and then when you make it smart, a smart contract. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Really appreciate that. That's some in-depth knowledge. Wow, the mentors here are really, really seasoned. Okay, before we go into the questions, we want to do one of my favorite parts of every JIIPCC mentorship session, and that is picture time. Please, mentees, I know your cameras have been off for a while, so let's know you're here. Please want to encourage every mentee to turn on their cameras and put on a smile on their amazing faces, because our mentors, and let's have a picture time. Ooh, isn't it? That's a beautiful smile. Amazing job. Okay, so let's just put a smile on our faces. Please let's turn on our cameras, please. Do turn on your camera, please. Thank you. Please, mentees, let's turn on our cameras. Merci, Catherine, Susie, and Fathai, Ramon, Life. Please do turn on your cameras, please. Thank you. Amazing job, Les. That's it. Just turn on your camera and let's have a beautiful photo session. Hello, Live. Okay, I see we still have a few mentees who will get to turn the cameras, but for want of time, we need to go on with this. Our mentors are looking so amazing. Even our mentors are looking nice. Mentees, let's smile. Mentors are taking the shine. Okay, I believe we have some shorts. Okay, I believe we have some shorts. We'll just take a few more to make sure we have everyone together in the shot. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. The smiles are really reassuring. Thank you so, so much. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. That was nicely done. Thank you. Oh, so mentees, do not forget, if you have a live question, you could raise up your hand by the emoji there for that, and then you'll be called upon to ask your live questions. Here at JIIPCC, we advise and encourage mentees to ask their live questions during the session, because it also allows the mentors to know how you think. You don't know, you might actually find, should I say, as we find favor with God, you might find favor with the mentor who really wants to work with you, due to how well they can hear how you reason from your questions. So please, I'll be going over to the questions the mentees have sent over during their research through their group leader. And I also encourage us one more time, if you have a live question, please raise up your hand with the emoji. Okay, I'll be sending this one first to Mrs. Damilola. Mr. George, after her response, you can also give your feedback on it, please. What are the main challenges facing the fintech industry when it comes to the legality of contracts and transactions? What are the main challenges facing the fintech industry when it comes to the legality of contracts and transactions? Please, Mrs. Damilola, I would love to get your view on this, please.
Okay, hi. So I think one of the very key challenges, there are a few of them, but I think one of the very top one is non-compliance. You find that in many contracts, there are obligations of both parties, or maybe in the case of a tripartite agreement, maybe between three parties, there are usually obligations for all of the parties in a contract. One of the major challenges is, a party not complying with its own obligations. The moment that happens, the effect might not be felt on the very immediate. but you find out that before the end of the cycle of that agreement, issues just begin to come up, which is why in the same agreement, you find the terms for dispute resolution. Some will say it's arbitration, some will say, maybe some amicable settlement. So, there are just diverse ways for dispute resolution, which is not the purpose of this conversation. But I know the top on the list is non-compliance. Another challenge is, agreement renewals, or just say like keeping track of the agreement. Many agreements today, you see it, they'll say it's an annual contract or it's valid for 2 years. And, after that period, nobody keeps track of that agreement because there are no systems in place to do the tracking. Not necessarily that, the partnership has gone sour. The partnership could still be ongoing and, there are no issues at that time, but, it is very important to still renew the contract as the contract has expected you to do, which is, renew it after the expiration of the set time, maybe after 1 year or 2 years. So I think that's number 2 for me. And another challenge is, which I think I'd mentioned while I was speaking earlier, is either of the party or both of the party not completely understanding what they're getting into. So I think this still falls back to obligation. There are a number of times when clients are in a hurry to start a partnership or to sign up for a product, and they hurriedly get into a contract sign off. And few months or few weeks or few years down the line, then they begin to see their obligations. And many times this dispute come up when it comes to making a payment. I remember there was a time when where I was working then, we had signed a contract with a software development company, and it required us to pay an annual maintenance fee of $1 million. This is after we have, this does not include the payment for the project. After the project is completed, it's supposed to be an annual maintenance fee of $1 million. And unfortunately, the project did not go live at the period that we expected to. It was supposed to be like a 6 to 8 month project. And of course, after the 2-year tenure of the project of the contract, the project hadn't gone live. So the partner is coming to us to say, "Oh, you owe me $1 million." And we're like, okay, we went back through the financials, through the payments. We saw that there was no deficit in payment. So how come you're saying $1 million? We don't owe you any money. Moreover, the project hasn't even gone live. So how come the $1 million is coming to play? And of course, we're advised then, the business team were advised to go back to the contract and see what the contract says. And of course, we just found out that it was there in that contract that you're supposed to pay an annual maintenance fee, regardless of if the project went live or not at the expiration of. So they expected that worst case scenario, an 8-month project will not exceed a 2-year term. So that's like 24 months. So that's like putting on a worst case scenario basis. And unfortunately, at the end of 24 months, the project hadn't gone live. But because we had signed it off that either the project went live or not, we're committed to pay an annual maintenance fee of $1 million. And, it was really bad. We had to do a lot of back and forth because we didn't want to get the matter to the courts, because, the project that we even started that contract for hasn't even gone live. It hadn't seen the light of day. So, we just had to find a way to settle, which is, just by the way. So it just tells you that sometimes we're so in a hurry to get things done and we just sign off on contracts, not necessarily knowing, the tiny details that were not, in our very faces. So of course, in the table, in the schedule where you have fees and commercials, you probably just go there, just glance through and you think, okay, I've gone all through the commercials. But you find out that in other clauses, there are financials there, but not necessarily clearly stated that, okay, this is 2 naira or 2 kobo. But it's written there that, maybe say at the end of every year, supposed to remit this to all, you're supposed to remit maybe 0.75 of your revenue, things like that. So I think those are the top 3 for me. Non-compliance, not tracking the validity of the contract, and third is, lack of knowledge of contract terms. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Whoa. I had to ask myself, was I hearing $1 million? I'm like, wow. I think I want to work with that company right now. Okay, Mr. George, do you have anything to add to that, please, before we move to the next question?
I think he practically nailed it. The fine print. Most of the time, these issues around contracts are always over promise, under delivery. It's FinTech, especially when you want to quickly close a deal, you want to close a partnership. Your team they want to just promise everything possible, especially when you're partnering with a bigger partner, a bigger institution. So you don't want to just take your time to see all the details and all the fine prints, those small things that they've written there. You don't take your time to look at it, and you just sign off. And then when it comes for delivery, and then you don't have the capacity, to meet all those things that they've signed off, and then issues, it blows up in everybody's face. So most of the time, it's on the delivery. It's the fact that they don't get time to read those fine prints, and it's always a big problem that we always see in this space. Another thing I would just quickly mention is exit. A lot of people don't pay attention to, how exit of a contract is documented. How do you exit a contract? At the time when we were signing off this contract, it always seems like this love, the love, how do I say it now? The love between you and the firm, that relationship is going to be so sweet forever. But it's so easy to go far, and then you guys want to, lose, quit the tie. And then you now find out that it's a different ball game exiting that contract, right? In fact, there's some situations where I have seen where the firm couldn't even engage a new partner, take up that responsibility or that project. It was either that particular firm and that they're in that contract with, or they pay number of years. So, but when they were signing that,
I realize this is good function.
Hello, Faith. Please, you're unmuted, please. Faith, help us, please.
The contract. Yeah, can you hear me?
Please carry on, sir. Carry on, sir.
Yeah. So those are the two things I really wanted to point out. The part around reading the fine print to make sure that you can actually deliver on what your partner is quoting in that contract, and what happens when you don't meet it to be clear, right? The liability should be very clear, versus also, you should also be very conscious about how you execute the contract. We should also
Oh, seems the network is really taken a toll over this.
I also want to just point out.
Okay, so thank you so much. Thank you so much. Although I would say due to the network glitch, we didn't really get the last part so well, but thank you. And please, mentees, ensure to always check for your microphones to ensure that they are not unmuted, so it does not affect the flow of the class. Mr. George, I would send the next question your way because you have spoken somewhat about it earlier. What is the role of smart contracts in streamlining financial transactions in the fintech industry? What is the role of smart contracts in streamlining financial transactions in the fintech industry? Okay, I think we lost him there. Please sit down on the line. Please, you could take on the question as well, please. Thank you. Would you want to repeat the question again?
What did you say?
I think you could answer the question, please. I don't know. Should I repeat it?
Yes, you can. I think I wasn't
Okay.
paying.
It's fine. Okay. What's the role of smart contracts in streamlining financial transactions in the fintech industry? What is the role of smart contracts in streamlining financial transactions in the fintech industry?
Well, I think one of the major role of smart contracts, I think the definition itself, bears a it just literally bears what the rest of the answer would be, is that it's a very transparent process. I mean, like the other mentor was saying then, and which I also mentioned earlier, the contracts are saved in a cloud system. I mean, not necessarily a bogus cloud system, but it's just saved up in a place that the two parties have agreed on, and they can always make reference to it. So there's no case of me cheating you or you cheating me. All of the terms of the contract has to be abided by. I mean, and like he also said, there's any time in the course of the life cycle of that contract, something is changing. The contract has to be closed before you then reinitiate another contract and say, okay, so going forward, this is the direction. Going forward, these are the terms. Going forward, these are the obligations. Going forward, these are the financial expectations for both parties. I think the transparency of smart contracts literally solves the problem. You find that a lot of people are not completely they are not in position to trust financial service providers, maybe based on their experience or anything that they had seen in the time past. But you find out that the transparency part it just literally just solves the problem. Of course, another thing is the way the smart contracts are built. It has a way of reducing costs. For a business that's very cost sensitive, you find out that you don't need to pay so much in terms of hiring a lawyer, doing this, setting up something. Just because it's a very simple and very direct agreement, so you don't need to have they go to a law firm, do this and that, pay for chamber fees before they come up with an agreement for you. I'm sure a case in point is when today we want to get an apartment in Lagos. I think other parts of Lagos too, you find yourself paying a particular amount of money for agreement. So for as little as that, I'm sure a lot of us can relate to that. You find out that the one that would pay for the agreement that you will sign, which the lawyer or maybe the estate of the property, or maybe the landlord or whoever, but you find yourself paying for the agreement that you'll be signing off on. So the cost reduction part is something that usually, literally it just streamlines it. A lot of people would rather go for something that is not necessarily cheap, or at least affordable. I think another thing for me would then be I think there's a way the smart contracts work where it updates itself in terms of how contracts are automatic. So for instance, now if a contract is valid for say a period of one or 2 years, you don't need to, unlike the traditional contract where you then need to reach out to the counterparty, they call them counterparty, where you then need to reach out to the counterparty, say maybe a few weeks or months to the expiration of the contract, and you need to confirm to each other in writing if you still want to proceed with the contract, and all of that. It's just a very long and very boring process, if you ask me. But with this one now, you don't need to do all of that back and forth. Just literally maybe click somewhere, and I'm saying that I'm doing auto renewal. So I'm sure a few of us to have subscription to maybe some lifestyle applications where they will ask you to tick for auto renew for your subscription payment, and you don't have to always come back at the end of the subscription to do to pay with your card or maybe do a transfer. It just automatically debits wherever you have to ask the system to debit. Yeah, so that's it.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I see we have Mr. George back on the call.
Yeah, sorry,
Mr.
my
George, please.
network went out then.
I
Can you hear
didn't
me
get that,
now?
please, sir.
Can you
We
hear me
can,
now?
but
My network went out then. Can you hear me now?
okay, yes, much better now. Okay, sir. I'll be reading the next question, please.
Okay.
Okay. With the rise of cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology, what new legal and contractual considerations are emerging in the fintech industry? With the rise of cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology, what new legal and contractual considerations are emerging in the fintech industry?
Okay. You can still hear me very well, right?
Yes, we can, sir. Thank you.
Okay. The new legal and contractual, situations that I imagine with the rise of blockchain, right? Did I get you?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah. So with the
Yes.
rise of
The rise of blockchain and cryptocurrency.
Yeah, so I mean, with the rise of blockchain and cryptocurrency, you would have it in two forms. One is within, the players in that industry, as in ones that are within the players that are playing in that blockchain slash cryptocurrency space. The other ones are the things imagine with the guys playing outside of it, but are being affected by what is going on by with the guy playing in it, especially if the guy playing in it is someone that you're getting into a contractual agreement with or some form of contract with. So the scenario is different when both of us are both playing in that cryptocurrency or blockchain space. Then we start looking at one of the biggest thing around there is how do you secure those interactions? How are we securing our keys, right? For those in the blockchain space, you would never have a conversation without hearing how do you manage the user's private keys. So depending on what that contract is going to be all about, it's all going to be around one of the major emerging thing you will find out is how do we manage the keys of the users, because that is like when you have like your what would they call it now? It's like your master key to whatever it is. That's the only way you can really access anything that anybody owns, right, on the blockchain without the person's permission. It means that you have the person's private keys. So how you manage those keys if you're the one, if I'm entering a contract with you, I'm a fintech, and I'm entering a contract with you, and we are both in the blockchain space, and you have to be the one to manage, the user's keys, whereby I am taking a service from you. Then we're going to have a very interesting conversation about how that is, going to happen. But if I'm not in the blockchain industry, I'm just a regular company, and I'm doing and I'm having conversations with you to get into an agreement with you. Some of the things that I imagine is going to be how does your traffic in the blockchain interact with me outside the blockchain. So, for example, if you're in fintech in Nigeria, you know that the central bank frowns at where guys in the banking space handshake with cryptocurrencies, right? So if you're fintech, for example, and you're processing payments, and then you're in bed with another person that is a fintech, but is playing in the blockchain space. So you're going to be worried around how would what you're doing not interact with me so that my customers are exposed to you, but at the same time, I am regulated by the central bank. And central bank doesn't want my customers to actually see or have anything to do with cryptocurrencies. So you now have a situation whereby you now start managing how do you handshake those traffic. So it is very critical when you're entering any contractor agreement and you have to deal with anybody in the blockchain space is how do you make sure that whatever it is they are doing doesn't make you fall short of compliance just by that handshake that you're having, with that person. So what and what is in that agreement to make sure that you are clearly spelling it out that if by the virtue of that executing whatever it is that you guys are doing, it makes you fall short of compliance, right? That agreement is null and void. And that's what you see where you see a lot of banks, for example, when they're having, agreements with FinTech, and you have anything to do with the blockchain industry, those are kind of things you see, or any financial service provider, those are kind of the things that you will see in that contract. To say that anytime whatever it is you're doing, puts my compliance to the regulators and the liability, it automatically makes this contract null and void. So that is one of the major emerging things in the fintech industry with the advent of blockchain and cryptocurrency, because of the stance of the regulators, especially the central banks, that you cannot run away from as long as you want to do fintech or anything banking, right? So you can't run away from the hands of the central bank in one way or the other. So it's either you completely stay away, and be like a blockchain cryptocurrency company completely, or you are playing in the regular space, but you can't be in between with the current central bank stance, because your cryptocurrency must not come into the banking space. So if you're in any agreement, or you want to go into any agreement with anyone that's in that, that's crossing that industry, then you must make sure that anything that impacts your own compliance automatically nullifies that agreement. Else, you might end up losing, your license to even operate, as a business in the very first place, or make them come after you. So that is a major thing that the fintech have to deal with, or that is emerging, with the advent of the blockchain. And lastly, but if it's just about you just storing as a form of storage, right? The only place where these guys use it a lot is we can now just use the storage functionality of the blockchain, because the blockchain is a place whereby you can't mute anything that you put there. It can't be easily forged, or it can't be easily duplicated, or it can't be easily, somebody goes behind the scenes to edit it. So we can use it as a safe storage. So when I have a contractor agreement with you, I store it on the blockchain, because any day, anytime, in any year, be 100 years from now, you can't change, the terms of that contract, except we both agree to override it. So the other bit is whereby they're only using it as a place to store, the contract, rather than it being in the shelf, of, their office, or as a document on the laptop of the staff that can leave the organization tomorrow, and everybody start looking for, where is this document that we signed? Or where's the soft copy of this document that was signed? Is it Ade no longer with us? And who again has the copy? Who was copied in it when it was done? Or let's go and look for the shelf, rather than eating it. But when it's stored, using a blockchain infrastructure, then you know that you can always get to that document any time, any year, and any century. So that's the other emerging thing that, as a safe use, that fintechs use as regards to blockchain and contracts. Right. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you so much, sir. Thank you. So for the want of time, please, I want to send the next question open to both mentees so that we can see how to quickly run through the next question. Is it better for fintechs to merge or enter contractual agreements with traditional banks or stand on their own? Is it better for fintechs to merge or enter contractual agreements with traditional banks or stand on their own? Please, any of the mentors could take on this, please.
I don't know. Is that question for me?
Any mentor could go on, please. For want of time, I want to see how fast we can take them.
Okay. Just a quick comment. It's even impossible that you actually grow as a fintech without a handshake with a bank in one way or the other. You literally cannot stand alone. You would need an infrastructure from a bank. The only thing is that you might acquire that infrastructure directly from the bank, or you get that infrastructure through another intermediary that have gone to acquire it, and then you are not tapping it from them. But you somehow must use banking infrastructure as long as you want to play in that space. So it is more of to say, how can you actually leverage the banks to actually, do your products and services or serve your customers, rather than, a standalone or not standalone conversation. You actually practically can't, really.
Okay, sir. Ms. Damilola, I saw that you work with Providence or Providence Bank. I hope I got that correctly, please, as a fintech partnership consultant. And I know this could be so much until you want to jump in as well. Sorry, fintech partnership manager with the Providence Bank.
Yeah, I mean, like George said, I think it's practically impossible for you to do away with the bank. The only time when you find yourself not having to do anything with the bank is if you're running a business model that the regulator has asked the bank not to do business in. That's when you find that, I mean, you're probably just a low ranger, and you have to, expend resources to build your own infrastructure, which is a lot of money if you ask me. But of course, I mean, other business models, I mean, the only business model in this case is the cryptocurrency, where the central bank has literally said they don't want any bank to process payments for them or, hold monies for them. But of course, if you're doing every other, you're doing savings, investments, you're doing collections, you're driving agency banking, you're doing e-commerce, you're doing agrotech, I mean, anything, you cannot do without the bank, because one, they have gone ahead of you, regardless of whether you see them as being traditional or not. They've gone ahead of you. They've acquired these infrastructures. They know it better. And of course, there are times when I find myself, having to provide advisory for some fintechs, because you find out that from the alignment meeting you have, which is usually, the first meeting, you see that they are not particularly clear on their direction yet. But of course, once you just say, oh, you should try this, go this way, meet these people, use this, try this out. Can you tweak this here and there? You find out, oh yeah, then they begin to see things through a better lens. So, I mean, yes, you cannot completely do without the bank. You cannot.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. So we have a final question I'll also address to both our mentors. And I think as you're answering the question, I'd also like you to give your final words because of time. I know that there are some young lawyers here, there are aspiring lawyers here as well as other professions. And I believe this question must come from either a lawyer or a lawyer in training. The question reads, and trust me, we want to know this answer. Is smart contract a threat to the work of lawyers in the fintech industry? Is smart contract a threat to the work of lawyers in the fintech industry? I myself am so interested in this particular question. So, Mr. George, can we start with you, please? Hello.
Can you hear me now? Sorry, I didn't know I was muted.
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, can hear you now.
Yeah, very interesting question, actually. Is smart contract a threat to the work of lawyers? The question is, the answer is a resounding no, it's not. But the but there is for, it's important that lawyers understand how their role, would be a bit, will fit in the current space, especially when it comes to blockchain. Now, the guys that it will be a threat in is the guys that don't metamorphose, let me put it that way. Because while it's called smart contracts, right? And that is why we relate it with lawyers. What smart contracts actually are to blockchain industry, right, is actually what the developers in or the engineers in the regular Web2 world call logic, right? The logic of their codes, what they put together to execute a particular command. If I click, if I do this, and if I do that, let it do this or let it do that, right? The function that carries out the entire thing in an application. In the blockchain space, it is done in form of, that logic is done in form of smart contracts. So that's why they are programs basically. So they're not like papers that you upload to the blockchain. They're actually, programs. They're actually in languages that are not English. Let me put it that way. Yeah. So they are not replacing lawyers. What those smart contracts are replacing, more or less, is what, for example, you will have done with your different computer languages. The legal person is still going to be there to enter agreements before it's translated into a contract. It has to be first of all agreed. It has to be first of all, we have to both have the same level of understanding first, that this is how we want to go about this thing, right? So that understanding is going to happen between both of us, with our legal guys also by our side, right? When we are doing all that, to interpret potential implications or potential outcomes of all these things before we now agree to make it a smart contract that will run by itself, programmatically. So the smart contract part of the blockchain is basically the execution end of things and when things are now running. But to get to that point, right, you need, of course, the Lego guy would not disappear. He will still be there to play all the roles that he's doing. The only difference is that contract would not be that document that the Lego guy produces and you go and put in the shelf to refer to it maybe 5 months later when you are having issues, right? Whatever that document is, it will now be translated into what you now call a smart contract, right? It will be embedded into that whole infrastructure as a smart contract. So the Lego guy will still be there to play that his role, but maybe we'll just save him the point that he has to write lesser things on paper. So we'll just save him time that he's going to use to document a lot, but it's not going to disappear just because we are now translating that document on paper into a self-executing program. So that's not going to make him disappear. So you're still going to be there. Don't change your mind to study law, please.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much for that answer, please. Mrs. Damilola, do you have anything to add to that, please?
Okay. I think if you also want to change your mind, remember we have a lot of cases in the court as well. We have industrial courts and we have a lot of cases as well. So I mean that's just on a lighter note. Because there's this buzz around now for artificial intelligence, and a lot of people are worried about their jobs. Their job going to be taken. Follow Elon Musk on Twitter, and sometimes you follow the way he speaks and he tweets. Sometimes you just be wondering, am I still going to be standing on planet Earth, in another 24 hours? But the truth, it's not going anywhere. Even if Elon Musk decides to move us to Mars or to another space, yet it's still going to remain. Which brings me back to the fact that you need to keep evolving. A lot of people that are senior managers, the banking industry today, many of them did not learn banking or accounting when it was like this. They probably learned mathematics before the advent of, very advanced Casio calculators. But, they survived and they weathered the storm. And you see them now today, they are general managers, they are leading teams that are doing technology things, which means that they too also need to be at par with what their teams are doing. So it means that they also need to just, be abreast of whatever it is. So there's an advantage for you who is just, starting up somewhere, who just finished university, who is still an undergrad, to just find your path, be a pro at it, be ahead of information. Don't always wait for things to come to you. I remember that when I started working in the bank, I told myself then that it was just going to be for a year and that's it. Because I studied microbiology and it was it was like a battle in my mind. I really wanted to practice, but I just found myself, doing this bank job and I liked it, even though it was a little stressful, but I liked it. And the role I had there when I started is not what I'm doing today. So this brings us back to how you must always evolve. Don't lie to yourself and say, no, this is what I want to be. No, you must always learn to evolve. I know that in the university today, you just have law. And of course, maybe when you then progress in your course, in your course in the university, then you begin to digress into other types of law. Maybe when you do master, I don't know how that works. But you find out that you also need to just evolve. I remember one of the final notes, one of my lecturers in uni told me one time, and he said that if you really want to practice microbiology, I hope you know that what you have learned in these 4 years is not what you need to practice. You need to go out there, you need to keep yourself with information, you need to move with people who are practicing, you need to let them mentor you. And if you have all the money, well, it advises you to just go abroad, play with the instruments, get into the laboratory, fill your mind with knowledge. There's no point, deceiving ourselves and saying, oh, no, this is how you want to do it. The truth is, in another 10 years, things are not going to be as it is now, especially with this advent of artificial intelligence. And of course, somebody like me who is still trying to struggle with cryptocurrency, I'll probably find a way to learn how it works, So you just need to evolve. I think that's like the take home. You need to evolve.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, I see Salu's hand is up. Yeah, so just to add to that, please, for young lawyers and probably law students, don't forget that Mr. George said something earlier. There are contracts as well that you also need to go through. Aside the smart contract, there are also transactions that lawyers are needed for to explain. And of course, regulatory frameworks, where lawyers are good at with regards to understanding some of these laws that operate or regulate some of these things. And of course, we have IP. In FinTech, IP is one major thing there when it comes to especially copyrights for source codes and softwares that are being used in developing some of this tech. So lawyers are still necessary. So let's have that in mind. Okay, I'll take Salu. Please, the floor is yours. Please ask a question, please.
Okay, good day, everyone. Please, can you hear me?
Good day, Salu. Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, thank you so much to Mr. George and Mrs. Damnola. I learned a lot today. So my question is still on the mergers that happen between banks and financial fintechs rather. So where there is a security breach, who sort of takes the fall? You know that I think when fintechs are sharing data, when the banks are sharing data with fintechs, it may actually backfire on the banks. If a security breach happens, it may backfire on even customers that are not even using the fintech. So who takes the fall? Who is liable in this kind of situation? Thank you.
Wow. Vanessa, over to you. That's a very beautiful question, Salu.
I think who takes the fall depends on how the breach happened. So you find that in agreements today. So I'm using agreement now as a more compound word.
Yes.
So you find in agreement today that there are clauses for indemnities. And if it's in the case of a bank will tell you that you should indemnify. You should sign like, other than the agreements that you signed off with them, they will give you a letter of indemnity and say that you should sign off that any loss, any data breach, any system glitch that arises in the financial loss, that is something that happened because you did something, you will be the one to take the fall for it. And also it applies to the bank as well. If the bank is doing a system maintenance, for example, when they're maintaining systems, a lot of things can be affected and some things don't get affected, which is why sometimes when your bank wants to run system maintenance, they will send you an email or a text message and say they want to do a system maintenance between 12 midnight and 3 a.m. on a particular day. Between those times, there's another team that is also ensuring that everything goes smoothly. There's a transition from the previous system, and maybe they are transitioning into something else. So a case in point is you are moving from Android 14.01 to Android 14.0.2. That's like an upgrade, sort of. The onus lies on whoever is running that upgrade to ensure that it doesn't result in data breach. It doesn't result in any financial loss. If by that action there's a financial loss, whoever is hosting that upgrade or system maintenance, he's the one that takes the fall. And of course, when there's a situation like that, most times you don't need to start exchanging or trading blames. Whoever has done something knows that they have done something and they know that this is from them, and of course they will take full responsibility. In every agreement, there's always a clause for indemnities and liabilities. Whoever goes against what they're obligated to do, you take the fall for it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yes, I really like that fact. Parties are bound by the agreement. Thank you. Is there any other last question we can take from our mentees? A live question? Any other question? Sally,
let me just add a comment.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Let me just add a comment to that. I don't know if you can hear me.
Very loud and clear. Yes, sir, loud and clear.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, sir. Very loud.
Yeah, I don't know if you can hear me now. I just wanted to add a quick comment. I just wanted to add a quick comment to Damilola's comment. Yeah, so in the ideal world, right? I mean, Damilola was spot on. In the ideal world where everybody would look, I mean, one of the first things you will encounter when you want to have a handshake with a bank is that word that she mentioned, indemnity. We love it a lot. So in the ideal world, who causes from where that breach is coming from would take the fall for it, right? But in the practice, the fall for it. And the reason is very simple. Having a handshake, when they are doing anything with the fintech, their chain management process is strong. So you cannot find with the test is working, and then they check, security, everything is fine before they go to, the live environment where that handshake is now interacting with the customer's data. Everything, the connection, everything must be checked to be fine. Because even if the fintech is at fault, and for example, anything affects what happened with the bank and the fintech, right? Even no matter what the fintech has done in the world, with all the indemnity, that is between the bank and the fintech to speak the English and sort themselves out. But the bank will always take the fall for it in the sense that they must, compensate or bring back or settle back, of that breach, regardless of whose fault or where that fault is coming from. As long as customers are impacted, except where customers are not impacted. As long as customers are impacted as the result of that breach, whether it is the fintechs that is at fault, they will be sorting that with that fintech, with their legal guys. But in the interim, customer must immediately be compensated, and whatever in any way it has affected them, they must be made sure that in practice the bank would never escape from having its own shit from the fault of the fintech, even though the fintech is settled completely. So where any fault is coming from. Just to also add that.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much. Thanks so much. That's really, really true. That's really, really true. At least that's why the good thing is always go through contracts with someone who understands them, so that the moment the customers are probably suing, the bank can easily attach the fintech company as necessary parties to the suit and present the documents to the court in evidence. Okay, that's the much we can take on the class today. But before we go, please, we would love to request for one last photo session. The last one, we couldn't get everyone together in one frame. Please just request for us to turn over our cameras for one last time, for one final photo session, please. Thank you so much, please. Yes, Ali, we thank you. I believe your question was handled properly. So please, Mentees, just turn on our cameras for one last photo session, please. Thank you for complying. Please, some mentees are not yet have a cameras on. Please just smile. Thank you for the smiles. Thank you. Okay, yes, we're having more people come on. Okay, that's it. That's it. Okay, I believe we have some shots now. Thank you so. Okay, thank you so much. Want to say a big thank you to our mentors for making it worthwhile as usual. It's been an amazing session today. You've really demystified fintech, transaction and contracts, and as well as smart contracts. That's like an icing on the cake, the cherry on the icing on the cake. Nicely done. Thank you so much to Mrs. Damilola and Mr. George for handling that so well. To our mentees, thank you very, very much for participating, and as well as the presentations. We hope to always push harder and bring it better every other week. I also love to advise our mentees that please, during the sessions, it's also good to interact through the chat box, or sometimes to unmute to let the mentor know that you are there and you are engaging with them, so to not feel as though when everybody turns off their camera at a point, you could almost you almost feel as though you're talking to yourself. So let's do it to also engage them throughout this session. To JIIPCC, thank you so much, Mr. Hussein, for being with us throughout the class as well. We look forward to seeing you all by the next class. Please do also make more researches, find out more things, read up on a lot. You could follow our mentors on LinkedIn and any other social media platform they are on. Meet them for great wisdom, and I know that the fintech space is protected and with people like us growing up in that space. Thank you very much, and you have an amazing Saturday. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.